Okay. I mentioned that I will briefly touch ingredients. So here is one slide about ingredients. So the topic that this slide is dealing with is really to teach you how to order a good meal. And I found that ordering at friends' dinner is actually a very important skill to have because a lot of people don't like doing that. If you do that, you really get to impress people. So when I think about flavor of food, I think about two dimensions. One dimension is the intensity of the flavor. So you have the light flavor or you have the strong flavor. And the other is really whether this flavor will make you feel that I feel full. Because usually, you usually get the comments that, this food won't fill you. I won't feel very satisfied afterwards. And some food is really filling. So I actually use these two things as two axes of the thing. So you have, from a quantity perspective, you have the light filling food to heavy filling food. And from a flavor perspective, you have the light flavored and strong flavored. And I have tried to map most of the ingredients to the four quadrants. So my theory is when you talk about a good meal or talk about good food, the experience always has to be a very harmonious one. That means you want to have a balanced, harmonious meal. And I think the theory is really to combine all ingredients from the four quadrants. And also, I've checked that if you have food from the four quadrants, usually you have a mixture of flavors. So for example, on the D quadrants where you have the strong flavor and light filling, it's usually some seafood or mushrooms. And then it will usually flavors like salty or spicy. For example, like the 水煮鱼, Chinese 水煮鱼. So it's from a flavor perspective, I think this chart really deals with how to combine different ingredients. So what is the healthy perspective? I didn't study nutrition myself, so let's go to the authority. So this is the healthy eating pyramid issued by Harvard Institute of Nutrition. So from this, the message from this nutrition pyramid is really that you have to ground your diet from foods from the third and fourth level. So from the third level, you have nuts, seeds, beans, and tofu, and you have the fish, poultry, and eggs. And from the fourth level, you have the vegetable and fruits, and the whole grains. And if you go back to the previous slide, actually foods from the fourth and third level really make up most of the ingredients here. And then I think the message here is the food. Let's go back to the next slide. From those two layers is really sufficient to create a rich and complex flavor of the meal. So you actually don't need to resort to the foods to the top of the pyramid. But I think one question is during our day-to-day meal, we tend to consume food from the upper half, which are the strong flavored one. So for example, you go to McDonald's, what you eat, you have the bread, you have the meat, and very little vegetables. And the reason is you always want some strong flavor to make yourself feel satisfied and happy. So I think in a way, we really need to focus on eating more of the foods from the lower levels. And if you examine the healthy food eating pyramid, these foods are foods that they encourage you to consume on a day-to-day basis. Another message from this healthy eating pyramid is really prefers real food ingredients over processed and refined foods. So if you look at the top of the pyramid, top of the pyramid, so foods such as refined grains, white rice, bread and pasta, and potatoes, they don't encourage you to consume a lot. But whole grains actually lives on the fourth level, which is the meal that you should feed yourself on. So let's examine some of the food options that we usually have. So this is the food that I have been eating when I was working as an office worker. And this is usually the lunch options. So when I go out and try to choose lunch, my motivations are usually two. One is health driven, and this usually happens on a happy day. And I think today I'm going to be healthy. So I would go for probably a salad, pret a manger, sushi, or sometimes soup. And actually most of the time I'm very hungry, so I go for most of the hunger-driven options, as you can see from here. I think it's not hard to tell that food from here do not compose the ideal meal from a nutrition perspective. So let's just examine those health-driven options. So salad. I think I have mentioned during one of the rugby Salon talk that I'm not a big fan of salad. To some extent, I hate salad. But from a nutrition ingredients perspective, most of salads, they contain vegetables and some of grains, so it's actually quite good for your body. But I think there are two problems with salad. One is for protein. If you don't consume a lot of grains or nuts, your protein source is from meat and fish. And then those meat and fish from a salad, especially from a salad bar, you usually get cured meat. So you get salami, you get ham, and those things, I don't think they contribute a lot of nutrients. They live for the reason of flavor. And then for fish, a lot of people, tuna is a very popular item, but most of the tuna, they're really canned tuna, so it's heavily processed again, it's not some fresh seafood. And again, another problem is, maybe salad is very nutritious by itself, but you always have to look at whether you can digest the food that well. For me, I actually don't have a very strong stomach to digest salad. So actually, the first time Yubing and I was talking about this presentation, we thought that since we're talking about healthy food, let's go for something healthy. So we went to a salad bar. And the next day, I actually got food poisoned from salad. So it's actually something not for everyone, and especially for me. I grew up in China, and I'm more used to eating warm foods, and salad is really not optimal for me. And then so it doesn't feel good to me. I don't think it's that healthy to me. And then if you look at pret a manger, actually I used to think this is one of the most healthy options that I have, but now that I look at it, it's actually not that healthy. So the bread, maybe it's whole grain bread, that's okay. But for the vegetables, you don't really have a lot of vegetables contained in a sandwich. And usually it's something like lettuce or just very simple greens. And it doesn't offer a lot more nutrients and variety. And moreover, the protein, in best case you get chicken breast, but sometimes, for example, in BLT, you actually get bacon, which is again a cured meat and a cured pork, which is not very nutritious. And what is the worst in sandwich is really the dressing, because most of the sandwich, they actually use mayonnaise-based dressing. So if you have an egg-dressed salad dressing, or just a simple mayonnaise or tartare, it can sit in a lot of names, but it's all a combination of egg yolk and oil and some vinegar. And the proportion of vinegar to oil is actually 1:4. So for every 1 drop of vinegar, you actually need 4 drops of oil. And it's actually a lot of fat contained in mayonnaise-based dressing. But that actually from a mayonnaise dressing made from scratch. So if you think about it, most of the times people use industrialized mayonnaise, which is actually even worse. So sushi, I think the fish are definitely a very good source of protein and very good source of some oil, essential oil your body requires. But the thing is, it doesn't have a lot of vegetables. And also, the rice, white rice, if you remember from the healthy eating pyramid, white rice and refined grain products are things that we should consume the least. Last but not least, the soup. I think I have mentioned that this belief that soup tend to contain a lot of nutrients is actually not scientifically proven. So at least I think it's just not certain that the soup is very nutritious. So why, since we have the knowledge of healthy food, and I think sometimes whether the thing is healthy or not is really common sense, but why are we keep eating the unhealthy options? I call this mentality of just put food in me, because sometimes in life, food is not the priority. And sometimes you were just saying that, today I'm not really in the mood of thinking of what I want to eat, I just want to feed my hunger. So it's this thing that food sometimes is at odds with our lifestyle that really drive us to eat a lot of unhealthy options. So some of the major problems, your biological clock. So I know a lot of people who skip breakfast and just have a simple coffee for breakfast, and that is actually really bad for our body. And then midnight feast. When I was at work, people would usually order after work over around 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll usually order some choy or we'll resort to the vending machine, which have a lot of Nutella bars and chocolate bars. Is anything unhealthy that you can think of? And then food versus your social needs. First, I think living in Hong Kong, we all eat out a lot in restaurants. But one thing I learned at Cotton Blur is most of the restaurants, they tend to over-season their food, meaning they put a lot more salt than it requires to put a dish. And then that is actually an industry norm, and the reason why is they want to sell you the beverage. Because you have something very salty for your food, you tend to drink some water, and sometimes you want something sparkly, or it's easy for them to sell their champagne and their wine. So that is something, not so pleasant about restaurant eating, but again, it's something that you can't avoid. And also, personally, I've been trying to experiment a vegetarian diet for a few weeks. And then sometimes when I eat out with my friends and tell them that I'm now a vegetarian, people will look at me like, really? And then I say, are you crazy? And worse still, my husband here, he would cook a piece of very delicious steak and then put it in front of me. Kelsey, are you sure you don't want it? Kelsey, you sure? This is delicious. Well, sometimes we do get this fitting mentality or this peer pressure out of conforming to a very strict diet, and this is I guess this is the reason that we can't really keep up to a very good diet. And the other thing I want to mention is food versus temperature, or food versus climate. I mentioned that I don't like salad, but when I was in London in the summer, fortunately it was the hottest summer ever in London, and then my room did not have any air conditioning, so actually all I want the whole day is actually a bowl of salad, because it's so hot and dry. I just want something as fresh and juicy, and salad really served my appetite. But when I was in Hong Kong, I just never craved for any salads, because we all live in air-conditioned environment in Hong Kong, and it tends to be very humid. And then when it's very humid and sometimes it's cold, for me, Sichuanese food is really the best choice I can have. Okay, and it seems to me that home cooking has solved a lot of problems, especially with the problems of restaurant cooking. But come on, we're all busy urban people who want to hang out with our friends. How many times we have for home cooking? So here is my action plan for you guys. So I have divided the group to 4 kind of people. So one group is people who's interested in both food and healthy. And then the action plan number 1 is really to quit one evil food that you often crave. For me, that food is instant noodle. I really love instant noodle myself, and but I chose to quit them about a year ago. It was hard in the beginning, but now I no longer crave for it. So I think it's something for you to consider. If you like potato chips, just try to stay away from it. And, I think after a while, you just lose the appetite for it. Okay, so for people who's very interested in food, but not so much health, maybe you're a very healthy person and you're really fit and skinny and you don't want to lose weight. I think for you, it's just really starting to learn to master the art of ordering or exploring the world of cooking. It's actually very fascinating. And for me, learning knowledge about food is always very fascinating. And I think if you want to be a master, if you want to be an expert on food, you definitely need to learn how to cook. And it's actually not so hard, because just now the exercise we just did over there can be considered a form of cooking. And seriously, everyone can be a good chef if you really put your consciences to it. Okay, for people who's interested in health but not so much food, I think these are the people I really admire. They have very strong willpower, and then they can keep up to chicken and broccoli for a long time. But I think in order to have a sustainable, healthy eating habit, you really don't want to work against your willpower. You want to have something that you just naturally crave. So for one thing, I think it's really important for you not to starve yourself. Because whenever we're starving, our willpower tends to reduce. And then we just want to, crawling to some food and just put them in my mouth. And then, because we're really hungry. So it's really the hunger sometimes take over us. And then you really want to look out for varieties. Again, chicken and broccoli, it's nutritious, yes, but a lot of the nutrients are not out of chicken and broccoli, so you really want to explore variety. And once more variety, I'm sure you will start to appreciate more about food and flavors, because those ingredients variety will naturally bring them to you. Okay, finally, for people who's interested in neither health and food, first of all, I thank you for coming to my presentation. And then my question is, really? Do you really love your life if you don't like health or food? Well, it's something for you to consider. Okay. I have mentioned that for people who's interested in both food and nutrition, I think you really want to start considering what is the optimal diet. And after I quit my job, I spent a lot of time learning all kinds of dietary theories. And I found that studying dietary theories, they may be science, but for me it's more a kind of art, because a lot of dietary theories, they really contradict with each other. There's this new concept called biodiversity. Basically means there's no diet for everyone. So you really have to experiment with your body and try to find what is the best diet for you. So here are some of the major dietary theories. For the sake of time, I won't go through them one by one, but I feel very interested about those dietary theories and wanted to experiment with me. I'm happy to talk afterwards. Okay, finally, just one slide to pitch about my own thing. Okay, I think in order to tell you what I do, it's important for you to understand what I don't want to do. I quit my job last year around May, and I quit my job thinking that I would do some kind of quick service restaurant, something like a Pret a Manger or Chipotle from the US. And I have been, I actually worked on a couple of deals on F&B, so I was quite familiar with the business model of these restaurants. So I have done a lot of work on it. I've done my business plan, I've done my financial model, I've approached a couple of investors. But I found that there's something just pulling behind me. And that something is when people ask me, so Kelsey, are you going to open a restaurant? Like you just asked. I don't feel very comfortable to say yes. In my opinion, Hong Kong doesn't really need another restaurant. We have more than enough choices. But even for people who love food as much as me, I get tired of eating at restaurants all day. Sometimes I really crave for those home cooking dishes that are very cozy, very temporarily seasoned, and something that has a heart and more nutritiously planned. So I tell myself, I don't want to build another restaurant. I want to do something that is a home cooking substitute, meaning that I will help you to do the work, and I will incorporate all the merits of home cooking, namely on this lightly seasoned, nutritiously planned, cozy and hearty in my products. So this is the thing I really want to do. And I also know that a lot of you here, for example, Elaine back there, is a very good home cook. So I actually wanted people come to my place and share their passion for home cook, and really teach the people around you and how to do home cooking. I really want to promote this culture of home cooking. Okay, apart from the restaurant question, there's another question bugging me. So people will ask me, Kelsey, so in your restaurant, do you cook Chinese food, or do you cook French food, or do you do fusion? I'm just not very comfortable answering that question because I don't know the answer to that question. Because for me, when I go out and hunt for food, I look for something that is very authentic. And authentic means that the food really represents the personality, the person who's behind that food, the chef who made the food. So if I look at myself, I was born in Hangzhou, which is in eastern China. And then I really appreciate those food which are savory and sweet and has a very delicate flavor. But at the same time, my dad lives in the North China, in North for a long time. So noodles and dumplings are regular treats at my home. And personally, I really love all kinds of Northwestern cuisine. So I like the flour, the noodles, the 面食. I like lamb and beef. And also I've studied French cuisine, so I really have an appreciation for the delicate European cuisine. Also, I'm a huge fan of Mexican and Thai food. So if you look at my preference about food, I can't really say that, the authenticity really is something that I want to combine everything together. So by combining, I think I want to do something very creative. I want to create a food that has the merits of all kinds of food that I appreciate, and then I create it to something new. I have mentioned that this chef, who is my culinary role model, Adrian, he created over 1,800 recipes for over 26 years. And then for him, it's a shame to repeat what he has made. So just he constantly pushed himself to innovate and really create new dishes. And I really want to learn from him. So that's why I named my venture called The Lab, because I don't want it to be a restaurant. I want it somewhere where you create unlimited possibilities out of the limited ingredients you have, and it's somewhere that I can experiment things. And I really want people to come and experiment with me. I've done a month or 20 days of product development with some of my clients, and for the 20 days, I laid down the rules for myself. So I'm going to cook at least 4 menu items per day, and out of at least 8 types of ingredients, and I don't want to repeat myself. So towards the end of that month, which is December last year, I created almost 80 new recipes, and I was very happy, and I was even amazed by what I was capable of doing. And then the message I want to share with you is, if I can do that, all of you guys can do that, because creating a recipe is not that hard, because you have just created a sauce out there. It's not rocket science, it's pretty simple. But I really want to promote this culture of you create something that is truly authentic to yourself. And then I understand that for me, I cannot be the only cook for my venture. So I really want to invite people to co-create with me. That's why I'm planning a lot of cooking workshops, as well as something I call it food jamming, which means you play with a lot of ingredients and just create whatever things you want. And I think just now could be examples of food jamming. And then you can do that in my pantry, of course. Last but not least, I want to provide food. I want to cook not just to entertain people, because when I look at my own aspirations or motivations for wanting to be involved in healthy food or healthy lifestyle, I really think of, if I can be healthy, I can be at my best performance for whatever endeavors that I want to pursue. So I'm sure it's the same thing for you. And I think food, you have this notion of you are what you eat. And for me, food do have their own energy. And I really want the energy contained in food can empower you. So here's my game plan. So first, I want to, through my work, I can educate people. I can help people to be more conscious about food, about healthy lifestyle. And I certainly hope that with the presentation that I did today, you have become a lot more aware of those foods around you. And secondly, once you have the knowledge, you can start to be creative and experiment on your own. Or you don't always, to be creative, you don't always have to resort to home cooking. Because let me tell you a secret about restaurant, because the restaurant, they have a lot of inventories back at their pantry, and they're always open to off-menu items. So if you look at their menu, you can pretty much get an understanding of what kind of ingredients they store at their pantry. And then you can just create something out of your own, and you just tell the waiter or communicate to the chef, oh, can you make me this and this? Actually, a lot of the restaurants, they can cater for that. And then you can also always ask for, I want less salt, or I want more of this and that, because they all have the food, things stored in their pantry. So you don't have to, by being creative, you don't have to do it by yourself. You can just do that in a restaurant. And finally, like I have said, once you have experimented with healthy food and you are used to healthy food, you no longer crave for junk food like French fries or chips. And by that time, I can say that you are free, because you are free from all the temptations, and you don't have to use your willpower really to choose those things that work good for you. And then it is really my dream that everybody can be free from all those temptations and can free to live a lifestyle, a very healthy lifestyle. And actually, this be conscious, be creative, be free is the philosophy that my yoga teacher, Andrew Lapa, taught me. And he used that as a rule for his universal yoga. And I found that this rule of be conscious and be creative, be free, can really be applied to every single aspect of your life. So I've used that with food, and I really hope that food could be something that make you happy, and something that provides positive energy to you, and that something really empowers you and help you to make this world a better place. So, thank you. You can taste it. What's the reference?
tried. You blocked me. Now you're participating.
This is coriander and this is spring onion. This is some spicy sweet chili. Yeah.
Okay, salty soy sauce? Like really salty?
You like it?
It's really salty, it's not low sodium.
We need a hot pot.
We have very different textures. We have kind of flour. This is white sesame. This is clove, 丁香, and this is dry basil. This is something called paprika. It's very popular in Western cuisine. This is the Mexican chili sauce. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Tastes like soy sauce with other things.
This is
比较容易。颜色搭配到了。
放在杯子里，我的 presentation 是最重要的。
Delicious. Best stuff ever. Retail value $1,000 an ounce.
just rather communicate with the contestants. Is there a chance to make the pitch?
Where's the other judge? There's one more judge.
对啊，我就很想给你加大蒜。
Okay, for judges, please remember the flavor, as you will have to describe it on the stage later.
It probably isn't the strongest smell, as I didn't really add in anything that's spicy. But I think it can go with any meal that you can just use it every day.
If you want to be having a balanced diet, you need to include everything, including all kinds of color. And my choice of ingredients is you can't take it. Don't shake it.
Too delicate.
This is the presentation.
So I put all the strong smell in it.
You taste the smell with your tongue?
No, but very strong smell. I hope that, I just hope you can detect it. That's it.
Okay, now it's time to review who's the winner. So I want to invite the judges for the sauce group. And the judges, please come over and describe what have you tasted and what is our decision.
So the sauce I created used a base sauce combined with soy sauce and sesame sauce, and with the ratio of 1:2. And then, because I want to have less salty and more mild flavor, and then I add some sort of spicy, which is a little mild. There are 2 spice sauces. I think I used both, and then I add some spring onion and coriander on top of it. It's very simple, but it represents the preference of most people, I guess.
For my sauce, given where I'm from in China, which is the northern part, I wanted to create something a bit more earthy, a bit more heavy in flavor. So I used a lot of sesame sauce and a lot of chili sauce. I wish there were some garlic for me to play around with, but unfortunately. So I added as much coriander and spring onions as possible. Also wanted it to be spicy as well. So instead of taking the chili sauce, which has a lot of other flavors in it, I just kind of skimmed just the oil, and I added the chili oil into my mixture. That's pretty much it.
What's the name?
Sophie.
Sophie.
Oh, my name's Alice. My sauce invites you to take an adventure from the everyday and the familiar. It starts with a simple soy sauce that you have grown up on. And from there, adds ingredients such as sesame, green chives, whatever they're called, spring onions, and other ingredients to take you on that adventure. It was inspired by a small restaurant on the edge of the ocean in Brunei Darussalam, where I used to live. For those of you who have not tried it, let me try to explain. To say it's an orgasm in your mouth would be an understatement.
All right, let's see what the judges have to say.
I've tasted. Well, first of all, I've never really tasted sauce like that before. But actually, the tasting of sauce is for me, it's to my surprise, I quite enjoy it. You might think that usually the sauce is so heavy in flavor, and then you would never just eat that. But with the dip in your mouth, and you really examine the feeling, the flavor. Actually, I experience something different. Although it's something that I take every time when I go to Happetit. For Yubing's version, it's a little bit light on the sesame part. It's more on the chili part. So when I first taste it, it's mildly creamy, but soon after like a stronger spicy spike. That's my feeling. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. For Sophie's version, it's actually my favorite version of the hot pot sauce. It's very heavy on sesame sauce, so it's a very creamy, heavy feeling. So that will add to almost all the hot pot food and make it creamy as well. And then there's what's the word for xiangcai? Coriander and also the green onion. They add to the texture of little crisp fillings, little fresh fillings as well. So a lot of creamy, a little bit fresh and crispy is quite nice. For the Alice, right? Alice, yeah. For Alice version, it suddenly reminds me of Japanese food, because I guess I don't know, maybe that soy sauce is more like a Japanese soy sauce, is it?
It's the Taiwanese.
It's a Taiwanese. Okay, I guess they similar culture. So you remind me of the seafood. So it's a completely different. Travel to different continents basically. Well, not continent, but different culture, different kind of flavor. So yeah, they all have different goods in their versions. Do I have to take a picture?
Yeah, of course.
That's your job.
Well, just my personal preference. I will choose Sophie's version because that's what I usually make it.
Okay, one vote goes to Sophie.
Can I take two preference or? Anyway, I'll just start by the thickness. First, I tried bean beans sauce. That's very. I think basically the three different sauces can cater to different dishes, not necessarily for hot pot bowling. And for bean beans, I think her sauce is like a very tasty. Put them on the steamed fish or steamed seafood, this type of things, because it's very freshy. A little bit sesame sauce reminds me of the steamed fish in Hunan Garden. If you were there, if you used to eat there, there was some bean paste on top of the fish. That actually reminds me of that very tasty memory. So yeah, that was a very nice sauce. And the second one is Alice. So to be honest, if we go for the hot pot, the soy sauce is everything I do. So that sauce is almost just a tailor like for my pilots. So it's kind of objective, but yeah, the sauce is very fresh, and whatever you put in a pot and you take it out and dip into that sauce, that's gonna be tasty for sure for me. And if they're more chili, that'll be wonderful. And for Sophie's, it's like I woke up and someone slapped on my face when I had it. It was so strong, so memorable. It's very tasty. And later it was like a punch on my stomach. Yeah, I still get that feeling now, because that dish actually, Sophie also just mentioned. I think I do concur that view. It's from the northern part. It's very heavy taste. I would say to massage this on some like the red meat, and maybe you bake it or you cook it or just for a longer time, that's gonna be very tasty, because all the flavor is gonna go into the meat. And even if you do this with some vegetables, that's gonna be like a Chinese version of more like exotic or rarely seen style of this stir-fry vegetables. But for me, I would say out of the three, I still go for Alice.
One vote for Alice versus one vote for Sophie.
Okay, I just keep it brief. I like all of them, but for the texture, I like Bing Bing's most. Not too thick and not too thin. But I guess if we are choosing the best presenter, it should be Alice.
So your vote goes to Bing Bing?
Yes, goes to Bing Bing.
Okay.
Those expensive creams you buy are not good, they're just a nice box.
To simply put, I think it surprised me that their products are so different, and but one flavor stands out from the rest. So for Bing Bing is vinegar, and for Sophie is sesame, and for Alice is soy sauce and sweet soy sauce. And I think probably our judgment is probably relevant to where we're from. So I'm from Shanghai, so I like sweet things, so I vote for Alice.
Okay. Alice, you're leaving. Let's see.
And basically, they have speak all my words. So yeah, I agree with them, and I think all three versions of sauces are quite balanced, basically. So I can, if I go to the hot pot shop, I can maybe choose either of them. But I can feel some signature flavors of each one. Yeah, just like Jesse said. But personally, I like vinegars, a little bit vinegars, because it makes me it give you some acid. Yeah. I think it's good for. It can make me eat a lot if we put some acid in the food. So I will vote for Bing's version.
Yeah, we have a tie. Yeah, we have a tie. Do you still have the sauce?
Yeah, I guess in the back.
Anybody want to make the final vote?
Oh, we just have two meals.
They can vote by themselves.
How about you just give them both?
Yeah. Okay. Let's invite the spice people. The contestant, the chef, please use 3 sentences only for your product. Please. 3 sentences.
I'll just use 10 words to remind everyone of my, pretty looking sauces. That's basically flower, leaf, root, seed, all inclusive, balanced, rainbow color, healthy, pretty basically.
So I used cumin, grinded coriander seeds, as well as some Sichuan peppercorn. And it should be refreshing, yet with some subtle spiciness under it, so you can do it every day with your every meal.
I think basically I just add all the strong smell. It's hard for me to detect the smell today. I know. So personally, I love all the strong as well. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. Judges, please.
Okay, I think Claire's version is she gives us a very pretty presentation of a very nice combination of the colors. So it's like basically like a color palette and like rainbow. So the smell-wise, you have to smell 330 degrees to really appreciate its elements. So it allows you, to do the second creation. And
William.
I think William's version is some quite grounded and very subtle. So it's not very strong, but it matches his first impression of people. Yeah, describes his personality.
Is that a compliment?
Thank you.
I'll
take it as.
Well, I think it's beautiful. And Well, okay. I think Well's spice is quite strong, very sweet, buttery, and I think it's quite. It smells like a little bit greasy to me because I like something subtle and smells like clear. So I think just by smiling it, I feel a little bit full. So. My personal favorite is good presentation. Just presentation that is not me, so I choose the chaos version.
Okay. Actually, can I actually pass this around so everybody can appreciate the spring bowl spiciness?
So for me, I think William's creation is my favorite because the mix of coriander creates a fresh sense to me. And actually, I don't know what you feel like. I felt it smelled like lemongrass. I know it didn't appear at all, but that's the magic of mixing things around, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, I don't intend to do a tie, but I will vote for Will because it's just cumin to me. It's a little bit normal, and for the pretty one, I will put it in my tea. I feel like it's so, and I will vote for the spice that make me mouth drooling. So when I smell his, it's a lot of strong spices, but it's adventurous, but it's actually good. I like it, and I can imagine Hong Shao Rou, like it's mouth drilling, so I like it.
It's from the whole
Ah, and I don't know this one, but I like this one, and he added. I don't know what this one is.
It's dried ginger, right? Okay. So I think we have a tie here, so I'll leave it to the winners of the sauce challenge to decide who's the winner. So Alice and Sophie. Please just smell it. You don't have to taste it.
That's
It's
another one.
completely clogged up, so I already have an answer. And you have to be quiet as well. Okay. I think all of these remind me of colonial times in the U.S. for a different reason. This one, I would say, would be ideal to put in a little pillow and put with your socks or in your closet to make your clothes smell nice and fresh for that date you might have. This one, I think, screams practicality. People back then were busy, and sometimes they just needed something they could throw on their food. It's just two simple ingredients. It's just very, I see it being sold in the 18th century Walmart. Throw it on there, ready to go. This one reminds me of old 18th century apple cider, the perfect spices you would mix in over the fire once the harvest was done. So, with that, I would say this is my favorite because I want to be around the fire. Whose is this? I want to be around the fire, drinking my apple cider, and it smells good. So, congratulations.